I almost used that.
Ask him how his chair
Good morning and welcome to our legislative coffee, the third one of the year. Appreciate your attendance. It looks like we got quite a few individuals here this morning. We certainly want to thank our legislators for taking time out of their busy week and to add another meeting and then come down to keep us informed, but also allow us the opportunity to ask questions so that we are informed. And so while we're sitting here, I hope that you think of a question, something that you're interested in. If you don't have a question, check with your neighbor. I'm sure that they do. The only way you'll be informed is asking questions and getting an understanding, so you have the right information, so that you know if somebody asks you. One question per person as usual. You're allowed a follow-up question as it relates to that subject. So it doesn't mean you get to ask two questions. If you need to follow up to that, that's fine. No statements. If you make any statements, I'm going to ask you if there's a question there. We want to keep things rolling and give many people's opportunity to ask questions as see fit. Asking questions, somebody will have a mic. Louis Reed will have the mic, and he'll go around. He won't give you the mic. You can speak into the mic. It's his mic. So we want to thank our sponsors, the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce Legislative Action Committee, Franklin County Farm Bureau, COFO, AT&T. Our platinum sponsors are Price Chopper, Calmar, Ottawa, Advent Health, Ottawa, Kansas State Bank, Ottawa University, Keith King State Farm Insurance. Other thank yous go to the Legislative Action Committee. You mentioned Louis. We're not all that important. We just try to make that happen.
We appreciate you.
You're the ones that are important to take the time out of your schedule to come, and the legislators who take the time out of their schedule to come. The next legislative coffee will be April 20th. That's the way. So with that, I think we'll give you about 30 seconds to state what you've done or that you see significant during the session. I know 30 seconds isn't a lot of time, but I think sometimes you learn to put that stuff in little balls there. So,
You want me to start?
sure.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Representative Carrie Barth for House District 5, and so I have a portion of Franklin County, Douglas County, Miami County, and Johnson County in the district, live in the Baldwin area. And just starting off we're over halfway through the legislative session right now. Something that I've seen that came about that was a surprise to me that I wasn't 100% aware that we needed, but has become quite clear that it's something that we need, and it may take some time for us to work on it, is a bill that, and I forget the number of the bill, but it's on parent-informed consent. So it's protecting kids and children from receiving any type of medical health care service without the parents' consent to have it. Most of us, and even I think a lot of doctors and physicians and facilities, don't all participate in that type of practice where they would do anything to a child without the parents' consent. However, there are folks out there that are doing so. So this bill has some language in it that's pretty broad. So I do think there is some scope that we need to look at to make sure that we provide some protections for all the parties. And we had a roundtable, and right now it's something that hasn't been worked yet, but we're trying to figure some things out, I think, behind the scenes to make sure, come back and then work it in a committee in open forum as well. So that's one of the ones that I have found that I really am thinking is needed.
I'm Rebecca Schmoy, District 59, and obviously my good friend Representative Barth really does understand the political 30 seconds.
Was that 35?
We're office mates up there. We have the opportunity to talk to each other about things that are on committees that we aren't actively sitting on, and so it is imperative for you guys to show up and do these things, because that's literally what we do. We find each other and talk through things such as that. We talk to our senators, and we build relationships to do exactly what you guys are here to do today. I think that the biggest thing for me right now is that we are actively working on trying to get you guys your money back. We are trying to actively work in reinvesting in our communities, and we are trying to actively work on cutting red tape for our local businesses so they can do good business. And thank you guys for being here.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you to the sponsors and everybody for coming out this morning and those online. I'm Karen Tyson, the 12th Senate District. Currently, it's Franklin, Anderson, Allen, Southern Miami, Lynn, and Northern Bourbon. That is going to change. The district actually gets a little bigger. It excludes Ottawa and has parts of Franklin, and then picks up Woodson, Wilson, and Coffee counties, and then goes to the further north. It picks up Paola in Miami County and none of Bourbon County. So it is quite a change, big district. But I do appreciate you guys being here. Tax and budget. Tax relief, let me be more clear, and budget. Those are the two major issues that we were working on this week, and I look forward to your questions.
Good to be here, Rick Cluse, and currently in the 19th district, which will be the new 3, and which will include Franklin County. So it's been a good time coming down here. I think I missed the last meeting, but prior to that, I've had a couple of these coffees and getting to meet some of you and coming down on my other free time to meet people. And so look forward to doing more here in Franklin County. I also have all of Osage County, and then West Douglas County and Southeast Shawnee County, as well as we look at the new District 3. The budget, like Karen said, and tax has been a big thing on our plates. We've had some late nights, and she's been a champion for tax. But good to be here today, and look forward to hopefully answering some of the questions that we can. But let me my 30 seconds up yet, but you know, a bill that we passed on the Senate side, SB 352, which is a little controversy, but the Patient's Bill of Rights. My mother-in-law, I didn't get to see for 3 months during COVID, and my wife, it was just a heart-wrenching thing. We couldn't go and see her till she passed. It was like 2 days beforehand did my wife finally get in. We got to protect the rights of our patients, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. 2 things I forgot to mention. Number 1, speak up, as it is being broadcast by COFO. So those listening in or watching will want to be able to hear your questions. And the other one, and I know nobody would do it, is leave your cell phones on. So if you have one that's on, we'd ask you to turn it off. The only exception will be if the governor's calling to get a hold of one of the legislators. We'll accept that. Other than that, just turn them off.
And she
Okay.
may,
With that, why don't we start with a question?
Thank you for holding the mic, Lewis. Dennis George. First of all, I want to thank Representative Barth for in the committee talking about the increase in funding for Medicaid for hospitals and physicians and clinics. And 2, Senator Tyson, thank you for being on the floor during budget to at least bring acknowledgement to the 340B issue. We have 4 bills in 340B. It's setting in committee. We'll not have hearings. Could you help me understand that you were great putting it as an addendum on, and I hope you got my email.
I did not.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope we won't lose it in conference, because I think it'll be cut in conference. But could you explain, when we look at 340B being impactful for pharmacies in the local communities, physicians, hospitals, why do we have the committee and leadership just sitting in a committee without a hearing? And I want to thank you for putting that addendum amendment to the budget bill.
I do work hard on these issues, so I appreciate that very much. Apparently, the reason those bills are sitting in committee is because there are some people convinced that it has to do with PBMs. So I stripped the language completely with PBMs, introduced Senate Bill 540, and that was the language that was used. It was a proviso on the budget that was carried. And Senator Dahl did a great job. Senator Steffen helped us out. I think that everybody in the caucus, seeing all these different diverse legislators teaming together on this issue, they realized that it was a big one because there wasn't one no vote. So what's going to happen is we're going a little different on this. We've spoke to some of our friends in the House. I was going to speak to these two today. The amendment is going to be offered in the House, and we're hoping that they will help get it across the line. That way, if we have it in the House version and the Senate version, the odds of it coming out are less likely. And it does not impact PBMs. It holds, it's silent on PBMs, but what it does do is forces a reimbursement rate that should be standard because it is law. It is federal. There is a court case that went to Arkansas because Arkansas passed legislation, and it was being challenged in court. The court ruled in favor of the reimbursement, and 2 days ago, March 12th, the the appellate court ruled in favor also. So no, I appreciate you bringing that up. We do a lot of work on a lot of topics, and sometimes you don't see the behind the scenes. In fact, I'm surprised you even knew I was involved in that, but yes, I was very much involved.
I apologize, I'm not a, but I do too. Stream on. Always was beautiful to see diversity, support.
Senator Dahl that I turned the bill and approached me. I didn't even know it was an issue for Senator Dahl. And after he approached me, we started talking, and we knew we weren't going to get a hearing. So that's where it ran from there.
Made my day. And all the hospitals and KHA was very happy.
Well, let your representatives know. Hopefully we keep that, and your senators, we want to keep that in the budget. There were some really good things in the budget, but there's some really bad things in the budget too, so.
Another question?
You guys, hi. Good morning. Here it comes. This has to do with Medicaid expansion. For years now, 60, close to 70% of Kansans have been in favor of Medicaid expansion, and it has gone nowhere. I'm going to read you a quote from one of your colleagues, Senator Rob Olson of Olathe. There's not one leader in here that controls us. This is not a dictatorship. You might lose your committee chair. You might lose your committee position. But you work for the people in your district. That's who you work for. My question to you is, do you have the nerve and the strength to face your leadership this week and vote to expand Medicaid expansion, which most of your constituents are in favor of? Thank you.
I guess I'll go ahead and just start on that. Obviously, that's a heated issue. Let me just say this. I don't know if folks are aware or not, but when we look at the Medicaid expansion, there's also something coming down from the Biden administration that every senator is going to have to look at, and it's a change in rules where they're going to, and I don't know for sure if it's been implemented in some states. Maybe Senator Tyson can speak to it or not, but essentially what it's going to do is it's going to allow, stop states that have Medicaid expansion from checking on any citizenship.
Yeah.
And when you have millions of people coming across the border illegally, and I don't know how that would affect the taxpayers in Kansas, don't have the numbers on that yet, but it is frightening when you think you have over 10 million individuals that have come over. And so whether you're for or against, especially if you're for, it's going to have to be something that people are going to have to look at, because then that's going to not just take us from 150,000 people, but what is the number of illegal immigrants that have come to Kansas that could be added on with basically no recourse to the program other than bringing millions of more tax dollars? And so from that perspective, we're going to have to stop and look what this will look like. I don't believe it's going to hit the floor. It's my understanding we're having two committees, joint committees, that are going to be tackling this, so I won't even be on there. I won't even see it, and I don't think we'll see it on the floor. I don't make my decisions based on all of what leadership says. I'll tell you that right now. There's times I've voted with leadership. There's times I've voted against leadership. I'm trying to serve and navigate. That's a big issue, and it's something that each one of us will just have to consider. But that is something that is concerning to me. I'm glad that we did in the budget increase Medicaid reimbursement rates. I think that was a positive step, and with that, I'll yield to someone else.
Well, I'll pick it up really quickly, and you guys know me. I take on my leadership. You've heard me say it. How many times did I tell you they were going to remove me from my chairmanship? And I don't care, because I care about you and I care about representing you. The chairmanship doesn't define me. My titles don't define me. I am who I am, and I fight for our core principles, and that is freedom and liberty and traditional values. We absolutely need to stand strong for those. And I've had this previous Senate president at least 7 times. She had 7 people she had asked to take my place and lose my chairmanship. So, and this president has threatened it twice already, and it's fine. So for Senator Olson to stand up and say that, he is projecting what happened to him. And I don't let that stuff define me. To me, it is so critical that we get good policy passed. And when we talk Medicaid expansion, Senator Kluse brought up one issue with it, but if you listen to Fred Gardner, Representative Gardner, and Dr. Grory, they're both veterinarians, and they both have studied this issue, and they understand. And I've always said, I'm not against Medicaid expansion, but we need a Kansas solution, and that's not what's being proposed. It's full-blown expansion, which we can't afford. We already know that we have a problem. How many of you have been trying to get appointments to the doctors, to get test results, and you know how overwhelmed the system is already? Can you imagine bringing all those illegals and others into the system with no cost? And if you don't think illegals are coming into Kansas, we know for a fact that they've been bussed into Salina, McPherson, and Topeka. We know that. There's witnesses that will attest to it. So it is impacting. We have a border crisis, and we have to, and we have a health care. And part of the 340B is helping address that and increase the Medicaid reimbursement rates. Critical. I know Senate reimbursement is a little house right now, but they'll go to negotiate and they'll work it out and figure out. It is critical to move diligently. There are always consequences to our action. In fact, I'm going to bring up a bill so obscure that I don't even know. And that bill, I don't understand. The UCC, it was a group that 11 states belong to, and they said, oh, we need to make changes because these other states want us to make changes. Okay, big red flag. Second red flag, how many of you use credit cards in here? So now, and you don't, those businesses that you use the credit card, they've covered that cost, they put it in the product and when you pay for it, well now it's going to be a line item on your credit card, on your receipt. If they break out the credit card fee as a separate line item, they get to charge that fee on top. So now your expenses are going to go up 3 to 5%. Will they lower that's up to the vendor, whether they decrease the cost that they had already put in the product for your credit card. So that's gonna show up on your on your receipts now. Another thing in that bill was, and this is the part that I am still researching, cannot find out, but it's going into law, the bill's going into law, but there's an obscure statement in there, and it says that some financial civil cases, the documents can not be opened via court or by an open records request until July 1st, 30/30. That is a third red flag. I mean, I just don't understand it. So, you know, we have, I'm sorry, I spent too much time on that, but I just want you to know that we have legislation that we have to pay attention to the details. And Medicaid expansion, you have to pay attention to the details. Thank you.
As far as Medicaid expansion goes, I will start by saying that the constituents that reach out to me, it certainly is not 60 to 70% in support. I'm seeing the exact opposite. If you do support Medicaid expansion and you are a constituent of District 59, please reach out to me, because I'm not hearing that. We can pull statistics from everywhere. You guys all know that. You can find a statistic that tells you whatever it is that you want to hear. So as the constituents of District 59, if that is something that you want me to do, I need to know that, because I am hearing the exact opposite. The reasons behind hearing the opposite is because the states that have implemented that are raising taxes, and we are actively here in Kansas trying to lower taxes. When we already spend a quarter of our budget on Medicaid, and we're already covering the most vulnerable in the state, I can't understand why we continuously hear the drumbeat of, well, we're just not doing enough. If you think we are not doing enough, please contact me. Have the other constituents contact me, because when I go and I represent our district and our community, it's not about what leadership wants. It's not about what chairs in positions want. It's about what I'm hearing from you all and what is best for us right here. Right now, we are actively working on things that would be complements to a kind of expansion, whether it's increasing funding, increasing reimbursements, trying to find outside the box ways of helping without getting federal strings attached. Because in Kansas, it's important for us to take care of Kansans. And part of that is making sure that we are not tying ourselves to policies such as making sure that everyone that comes into the state, whether they are legally here or not, is covered. Because I know for a fact that the constituents of District 59 are concerned about things that are happening in District 59, and we want to make sure that our money is being spent on the constituents and the community of District 59. So, like I said, if you have information, if you have issues that are important to you, contact me. I know. That way I can represent our community. Thank you.
Do you want me to take that one too, or do you want to move on to the next
Unless
question?
you have something new to add, we'll move on.
I mean, we do have a hearing in both the House and Senate, so that is coming up this week on Wednesday on Medicaid expansion. And, you know, they've cited a lot of the things that are already kind of known out there as well. The only thing I will add is to address the question that came about, I really think 70% is a political ploy, because we keep hearing that, and we're not hearing 70% at all in our constituent base that's reaching out to us. It's more of a national voice that's coming to us at this, who wants us to spend money in ways that don't have the proof yet. So if we have something new to learn on that, we will see that if there's something that comes up on Wednesday. So From what I understand, the folks that were surveyed on that percentage that gets told to us time and time again was a small number of people and of folks in certain areas, and so that's really not even credible information. So until we actually physically see folks that are doing that and have additional information to bring, I mean, I think that's just a political ploy.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you all for taking the time out on your Saturday mornings to be here. We really appreciate it. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was able to see that you had a hearing about a repository for precious metals, and that way we could have coinage here in the state of Kansas. My question would be, how serious is Congress taking this with what's happening with BRICS nations as far as the de-dollarization of the world? They've actually attached, most of those countries have attached their currency to gold. And in our situation, what really alarmed me was I started digging into that, and I found ours is called the petrodollar. And the main reason for that was in '73 we had a defense, we signed a defense for Saudi Arabia, where we would defend Saudi Arabia and then they would only sell oil with the dollar. Well, last year Russia signed that same contract with Saudi Arabia, so now basically the petrodollar's out of gas. So how serious are we taking this so that we can actually have lower inflation?
I'll take that one. I appreciate the question. We do have a bill that is actively being looked at. We had informational hearings on both the Senate and the House side. I actually co-sponsored the bill that addresses the fact that we need to make gold, because it's already a legal tender in Kansas, we need to make it more accessible for people to be able to use. There are a lot of moving parts with that. There are a lot of pieces that really need ironed out. When we start talking about unintended consequences, that anytime you go to restructure how people spend their capital, you really have to understand all the inner workings and how that's going to be done. This is not something that we are going to mandate that banks participate in. This would be something more along the lines of making it available through an app or something like that. That way you can buy and sell and trade the legal tender that is gold. So anytime you're talking about using technology in order to do that, you can buy credit cards and things like that. We also see that technology can be used against us. It can be hacked. We have to look really hard at how to make sure that those things are safe. We also have to look at the fact that social media sites and things just randomly shut down and with no explanation. And so if you're using an app as far as how you're spending your legal tender, whether it's Zelle or PayPal or something that would be Glint, I believe, is one of the names that we heard as far as the using gold. You have to know all of the ins and outs, and you have to be able to protect the consumer, the customer, in the realm of technology while using gold. So it's going to need more hearings, it's going to need more study, but it is a topic of conversation that is not only interesting at the House level, but we are actively engaged in trying to make sure that we are giving Kansans all the options. And since legal tender does include gold in the state of Kansas, we need to look at how to make that more accessible.
Yeah, and I'll just say, we need to be on the gold standard. We do
Yes.
not need electronic currency. In fact, I'm not recommending anybody, I don't give financial advice, but I personally stay away from Bitcoin. I'm a software engineer, you guys, just telling you, but I'm not recommending.
And I would, Senator Cluse here, I would just mention, and thank you, Rebecca, we also heard this on Fed and State. We had a hearing. And I like to see precious metals, and the currency, the app. I was looking at some of the apps that were available. One of the big things right now, anytime we enact legislation too, we have to look at our state agencies and where they're at and what it's going to take them, especially on Fed and state. We deal with ABC a lot, and the treasurer came in, our secretary treasurer came in, testified on what he would have to do to get that department up to par and the changes. So there are some logistical things that are going to take some time, but that's just some of the things I've heard, and I don't know if you have anything more of Secretary Treasurer, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, given that the school funding has increased and outpaced inflation over the last several years, and at the same time, since 2017, NAEP test scores in Kansas have been going down, is there something that y'all do to think about that, or study that, or address that, or just a general question about that relationship between those two things? Because most people think, more money means higher test scores or something like that, or better success. Thanks.
So, a couple years ago, there was legislation passed as a result of a court order, which I think is completely wrong. The courts do not set the purse. The purse is in the power of the legislature. It's in our Constitution. And so I think legislators should stand up to that. But they didn't, and it was $1 billion to $1.5 billion increase to K through 12 funding. And then what's in that legislation that passed, that I tried to convince my colleagues, do the math. This is not sustainable. It is absolutely not, and we're starting to hear it in caucus now. People are starting to mention it. There's an automatic inflation increase every year for K through 12 funding built into statute. So you had that $1 billion plus increase, and now you're getting an increase because of inflation. It's not whether they need it or not. It has nothing to do with need. It's just somebody built it into the legislation. And so look where we're at. And you're right. You can't just keep throwing money at a problem and expect it to fix it. It's bigger than that. You've heard me say before, my dad's always said, it's not how much you have, it's how you manage the money. And we're not managing it. It's not getting to the classroom. It's not getting to the teachers. It's, we see what's going on with the school funding, and it needs to be addressed. I know there's debate on the formula and what our options are, but I haven't seen any real solutions. I actually suggested that a group get together and form an expert and go across the state like we did with property taxes and start engineering, basically, engineering a solution. And that's what we need to do.
If I could maybe add on that, I'm not on education committee any longer, but I have been trying to stay in the loop just because it is a needed area. One of the things, the look back 2 years and the funding, and it's my understanding that we're still paying for over 12,000 students that are not there. And so we talk about special ed funding, and that's based on the amount of teachers that are available. So, one of the suggestions is, why don't we take that money and shift it over there as an option? And I had another thought, I just lost it, but maybe it'll come back. I'm a little brain rattled after this week and some of the late hours, all these bills, but those were a couple of things. Maybe it'll come back to me, so.
I sit on the education and the K through 12 budget committees on the House side, and we have had hearing after hearing trying to find a compromise way of accountability. For lack of a fancier term, we're looking for some teeth. We are looking for a way to make sure, because everyone in the state, there is no one in the state, whether it's a legislator, whether it's a citizen, that does not want the best educational opportunities for Kansas students. So we are trying to find a middle ground that we can meet at to make sure that the funding that does increase every year, the funding that takes up the majority of the Kansas budget, trying to make sure that is going where it needs to go and is helping students as opposed to helping. We have teachers who are able to go for maze for things. They're having to ask their communities. They're going to media to build their classroom resources. That's especially when we continue to put more money into the budget for Kansas schools. We need to make sure that the funding that we are giving Kansas school districts is getting where it needs to go and is being utilized in such a way that the benefit is going to the student. Because when the student in the desk benefits from the funding, you have happy teachers, you have happy staff, and you have happy communities, which makes happy legislators. And so we all need to be working together to verify what the funding is being used for and make sure it's being used appropriately and make sure that our students are the main focus for everything we do when it comes to school funding.
I don't sit on the education committee at all, but my personal experience, I've seen there's a lot of challenges in the education world. We're spending a lot of money per child. If you compare that to what a parent pays out of pocket at private schools, which is a lot less than what we're funding at the public education level, they're getting actually a lot of services across the boards and they have a lot better outcomes and control and accountability. So I don't know the answers and solutions to all the problems. I just know that, I think teachers should be paid fairly. I think we should have a focus on education. We spend a lot of money on things such as social emotional learning and things that are not education based. We allow for cell phones in classrooms, which I think is a behavioral issue and a major cause with social media access that children have. And until teachers stand up and get that out of their classroom and administrators support the teachers, which I think is part of the problem. I hear a lot from teachers. I just was at a Spring Hill chamber coffee like this, and after the event was over, a teacher walked out with me in the parking lot and told me how she's been attacked in her classroom. And this is not unheard of. I think Representative Schmoy in the education hears this on a regular basis. Well, I asked her, why are you not doing something about that? I would have called 911 if I had a kid attacking me, throwing chairs, effectively hurting myself and possibly other students. First of all, I expect that teacher to protect herself and those students, right? But she has a right, and she does not feel protected. And for whatever reason, I've asked folks in the mental health department to say, what are we doing? Why are we not solving these problems? And it's a social stigma issue. And I said, well, if there's no law, laws protect these folks, so we need to stand up, do the right thing, and support them. They feel like there's a lot of parents who come at them first, like they're the problem, versus their kid maybe being the problem. And that's another problem we have. So I don't think there's a solution that's going to fix all that. That's an individual problem we have on individual folks. And until the teachers stand up for themselves, the parents stand up for themselves, administrators stands up for the teachers and the rights of all kids, not just that one kid who's causing destruction. In my opinion, that kid should have been probably sent off somewhere to have major behavioral health issues dealt with when they put other lives at risk. So I don't know. I just think we got to stand up for folks to do the right thing, and people just have got to start doing that themselves.
I have one thing to add to that, and that is please join us in contacting the federal level representation for us in order to make sure that they are having the conversations at the federal level to make good on their promise to add to Kansas special ed funding. They are sitting on, I think last I knew, $330 million of funding that they had promised to Kansas special education that they have not delivered on. So we are all trying to hold them accountable for their portion of what they have been obligated to spend. And I would sure appreciate the backup on that. So thank you.
That's kind of funny because we're kind of waiting on the state to give us money that was promised to us too, but that wasn't my question. My question is actually for Senator Tyson. I am Dickinson, Franklin County Commissioner. Senate Bill 311 went to your committee on Thursday. It is a bill this is the committee that you chair. This bill has provisions to benefit large commercial properties and has language that can revive the dark store theory that would hurt cities and counties and push the tax burden to residential property owners. So at the same time, you are against returning LAVTR taxes to cities and counties that would reduce property taxes. You are supporting a bill that could have a devastating effect on residential homeowners. How does this help your constituents?
So interesting, her question is staged much like the refractor reports. Lot of inaccuracies in that statement. Let's start with LAVTR first. Every time that has come up in front of us, I have voted to fund LAVTR. The problem is the majority of legislators will not vote to fund it. They do not want it. So there has been a big campaign by local governments to say this will save us. Well, Representative Corbett has a graph posted on his social media that shows if LAVTR would have been funded for the last 20 years, it would be a difference of pencil dust, to use his words. It would not have stopped the massive increases that we are seeing in property taxes. And we can prove this. We can prove this with the funds and show the slope. Property taxes have gone up over 200 and some % across the state in the last 20 years. And it is local government. You've heard me say this. 1.5 mil goes to the state. They collect 1.5 mil. 20 mil is forced by the school districts to be collected, forced by the state to be collected for the school districts, and it is used by the school districts. That's it. That's all the state has to do with property taxes. So the rest of your property taxes are all local. You're getting a letter now, and you will get it in between August and September, and it will tell you every taxing entity that plans to increase your taxes, when they are having a public meeting, and when they will vote for whether they're going to increase your taxes or not, collect more. It's now a recorded vote. It creates complete transparency, so you know who's raising your property taxes and why. So LAVTR last year said we need to just get rid of it. Now they're taking a different tone. They're saying, well, in fact, the Senate president introduced a bill that came in late. It came in last week. We're having a hearing on it next week. But what it is if the state sends the local government, the county, and then the county distributes it among the rest of the governing bodies, if the county accepts the LAVTR money, then all of those governing bodies would have to stay revenue neutral that year. That's the bill. It makes sense because the local governments are saying, oh, well, we will use this money to lower your property taxes. And when they were testifying, some of the commissioners said, well, I'll vote to lower your taxes. There was no guarantee that your taxes would be lowered with LAVTR money. So what the Senate Tax Committee passed out last week was removing the 1.5 mil that the state collects. So that's true property tax relief. And at the same time, removing the LAVTR language and the expectation of local governments to receive state funding to help support their property taxes. So that way it is a true tax cut. And so we'll see if the Senate picks it up or not, but it did pass out of the Senate committee. She also implied that there was dark money language, or I have no idea what that is about. What happened was Senate Bill 311, a business owner came to me and asked me, he said, Karen, when I go to sell, I go to sell my property, it's in a strip mall, and somebody had been renting it, and that rent is counted as income, and so the valuation of the property would go up. Well, think about that. So it's an additional increase to what the property should actually be valued at. it's confusing. It's 1031, they exchange property. And so they just wanted to make it clear that the portion of income is not part of the valuation of the property. I mean, you wouldn't want your income being part of your property taxes also, would you? I mean, it kind of makes sense. It does make sense. So that's all we were doing, was clarifying that. And I don't know who came up with the dark store theory, but it had no intention of dealing with that issue at all. And so, but I like I said, the refractor's been misreporting, people have sent me a couple of their articles. They said that I was working on an election bill, so I didn't like gays. You guys, that is the furthest thing from the truth. It has nothing to do with reality. So the facts matter, and you need to be accurate in your information. So I do support LAVTR. It's not going anywhere. So why not just get rid of it and give true property tax relief? Wouldn't you guys want to see the 1.5 mil cut? Yeah, and the LAVTR go away, and the argument goes away then. Yeah, so that's what I thought. Thank you.
My follow-up to that would be, the LAVTR for the Franklin County would be $1 million. That is pencil dust to us. It might be at the state, but it is not.
But inaccurate.
Doesn't
She's
go-
misleading again. The $1 million. Oh, no, let me explain. The $1 million goes, but the county has to distribute that to the municipality, to every taxing authority in the county. The $1 million does not go to the county alone.
It doesn't go
goes-
to the county at all. It goes back to the taxpayers, reducing taxes.
Yeah, we would assure that it goes to taxpayers by cutting the 1.5 mil. Then there wouldn't be any dispute. So we've had a couple of bills that passed the Senate on property tax. One is the valuation, to limit the valuation increases each year, the taxable valuation. The House still has that legislation. I'm hoping they'll pick it up. We need to get it on the ballot so that you guys can vote, rather to limit the taxable valuations on your property. With the transparency and with the taxable value limit, that would both help. The other one is, we've got several. One of them we passed this week, and I hope the House picks it up also, is no personal property tax on golf carts, mobile, wheelchairs, electric bikes, ATVs, boats, watercraft. It would all be exempt from property tax. Did that was the county appraisers came to us and said it cost more to taxes than what we bring in. We would like to take those off the books, and that's what we passed several legislation. But you guys do support getting money to the local government. I just know it's not going to happen. So the reality is, what do you want to fight in the LAVTR fight? True relief, 1.5 mil. I'll take 1.5 mil.
Very happy to see all. You follow the percentages that you hear from your constituents, how you vote. My question to you is, do not get the message Franklin County voted passed 2 years ago by 60%. They did not want an amendment to the Constitution regarding reproductive rights for women. And overwhelmingly, we heard national news of what Kansas did when they said no to the amendment. Now many states are following suit. In checking out, I find that an 81 to 39 vote for that you have a bill concerning terminating pregnancy. Now, my question is, in that bill, there are 11 questions regarding why does a woman needs to be pregnant. I want you to tell me, what are those 11 questions? Who is the one that administers those questions? And what are the regulations for enforcing that someone asks? need to listen to the constituents. We are not you continuing to vote to erode productive rights.
I can, one, it is a House bill, I forget the number of the bill number, but you can look online to see what the questions are. It was in the health in the House. As a bill, it doesn't take away the right to vote on abortion, so that still exists. Doesn't change that at all, regardless of like that or not, it's still the same. People that go to healthcare providers are often asked questions in their home, you know, do you have any issues, things like that. There's a lot of questions that people get asked with the abortion industry today. They are asking some questions. This expands that somewhat. And today they're reporting that to an entity that created the abortion industry in the first place. This actually takes information that is gathered from these questions and provides information to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. That's what the bill does. And so from there, that information can be gathered and collected. It protects personal private information on questions. So they also have the option to questions, so they have that right too. So that's what the bill does.
What those questions, it lists 3, it would not let me see the questions. And that's what,
Do you recall what the bill is? Yes.
no, I do not.
They're all bill. There was
Talk the termination. And
were you reading that from the Kansas legislature works, or reading that from a personal article one wrote?
I'm not sure exactly.
It was
I
from
that information came up.
healthcare, actual information on there under the bill number.
I still think it's another string attached to people in the care that they need. I have worked in women's health for 50 years as a nurse, and I have seen regulation after regulation. Parents have to sign, the husband has to be notified, all sorts of things, nothing to do with, and I don't like continuing code. It may be information gathering, but you are invading privacy. I want you legislating out of my uterus.
The whole accountability thing is truly very important. And recently, the KDA said that Kansas taxpayer money has been going to other states because we haven't in Medicaid. And when you say that the big issue is immigrants coming, undocumented immigrants aren't eligible for Medicaid. It's not, $7 billion is a hell of a lot of money. I mean, and you're talking about 336,000 here and $1 million there. $7 billion is like half the federal deficit. And we let it go away from Kansas taxpayers.
The question.
Well, I mean, why are you fighting expanding Medicaid?
If I
Where's
could,
the $7 that you're talking about? That's clear.
That came from the tax monies that were allocated.
That's coming from the Kansas state budget.
Are in federal?
That we've because of that.
the only thing I respond to when I was talking about illegal immigrants coming in, I mentioned was my district is looking at ways, the rules, and how just through agencies to stop ship checks fund illegal would mean they would have access, expand Medicaid, and for the states that are expansion in town, which can be their as legislature. We fact how that would can tax dollars or tax dollars, and if you're talking about, we always talk about how much money is we're not receiving from folks. We also have to remember when we got 3 trillion projected to be 4 a few years. Well, that doesn't affect us. It affects your dollars federal size. We're paying for it one way or another. We're spending taxes. Just state level, we're spending them from a federal level at 40 trillion. And if it's not, it'll kids or grandkids, and God forbid. But my response. Thank you.
Let me, you guys, you're talking about what you may be next year, maybe talking about something that actually happened. So, maybe some of the other questions on that.
I think, thank you. Time. 2, 6, 7, 4, which is program. Now you know that students are every, and we think these children come from underprivileged families, and they deserve to be fed during the summer. I realize it to it that half the minimum for this program will now be covered by the state. According to the fiscal notes that were attached to the bill, I come up. Let's see. 113,702 children will be affected. Approving or approving. I'd like to know where you stand on it.
Handle, but say that by district by district, there are things in place already in county by county. So that I sit on the Baldwin Education Board, and we started the Back Snack program, sent food home with. I think the programs in place, and some speak for all districts off the top of my head. That we have folks across representing all areas. And I know those are already funded, sometimes through state dollars and local dollars. Also, my concern always is that we're not dipping into the taxpayer money for programs like that. So maybe some of the other folks have as well.
Yeah, the legislative website that was used on February 1st, the House Committee on Reform, and it not moved, is not hearing the information bill that was introduced, and there is no movement on the side whatsoever. And more on the reason behind the introduction of the bill and what they're using to solve that, and not because effectively sitting late and it has down. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, I have an opinion on why it was introduced, and I don't know how to pay for it.
It says that the supplemental nutrition assistance program budget to run this program in their budget. This is going to 13.6 million federal funds of our community. This funds brought, I believe, in January, we had to, we were in it, not in the pro campus. And what I heard from the legislators, that's why I'm asking, is that the pro,
If this comes to this session, I would give it, but it sounds like it's introduced on first. It has had a hearing. It effectively does not exist at the state now. For my expert that I would and also have to opinion on that just
Really quick, we passed major legislation. I can't believe nobody else actually thinking of you on it. Exempting Social Security 100% for years. Yes. There were 4 provisions in the, but that was a major one. We moved up to July 1st. For you guys, is only on groceries. I was out and about and said, "Hear all of it." The local meeting, the governor said at the time, people, it was on state sales tax on groceries. Another provision, another we passed that is huge that will impact price is we property tax for low. That's massive. If that passed, it would exempt Social Security. It would include household income. Much more people qualify. You guys, we passed legislation for your institute.
Thank you. No, this is the only time that you have tax was said wasn't the same language, maybe so you may be able to come to we can make this work. It's unnecessary cereal. I thank all for coming and the question that we didn't get to ask, and one of those later, we want to thank you for taking schedule after long nights and I guess this isn't finally that, but we thank you for. Next legislature is April 20th.
Thank you, guys.